What's up fellow nerds, I'm your host Dr. McKay and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a breakdown of the knowledge of the ancients left behind by the once great race. The ancients have vast amounts of knowledge from all over their long history and have recorded their knowledge to be later discovered and used by their descendants when they are ready. This video is going to break down this knowledge and the devices containing it, plus the usage of this knowledge. But before we get started, if you like the content, please like, comment and subscribe for more. And with that said, let's go! So before we dive into the knowledge itself, let's just go over a brief history of what we are actually breaking down in this video. So to begin with, we are covering 3 points of knowledge the ancients have left behind. The first one is the unknown number of leftover repositories of knowledge or archives left scattered around the Milky Way galaxy. The second is the Atlantis database, and thirdly, the Destiny database. So firstly, let's discuss the archives of knowledge that are scattered around the Milky Way galaxy, that are held in these wall storage devices. So what is the history? Well, there are two histories online that set the timelines of these repositories of knowledge devices. The first timeline is around 7 million years ago, just before Atlantis left the Milky Way galaxy due to the plague. The ancients set about a plan to wipe the plague from the galaxy and to reseed life. And in that plan, they left numerous devices around the Milky Way galaxy that contain their vast knowledge up to that point in their history. This knowledge was contained in these circular devices hidden in walls and structures for their descendants to later discover and use. This timeline puts the devices at around 7 million years old, containing all of the ancients' knowledge up to that point in their history. The other timeline online puts the devices at around 10,000 years old, being placed just before the ancients ascended upon their return to the Milky Way galaxy from Pegasus. If this timeline is the correct one, the knowledge contained inside would be the most up-to-date knowledge the ancients left behind, even including Atlantis' database. So I'll leave you to decide the timelines for yourself, but for me and my opinion, the archives were placed 7 million years ago before they left the Milky Way for the Pegasus galaxy. So moving on to the history of Atlantis' database. This knowledge is stored in the Atlantis computer and can be accessed via the computer interface. The knowledge that is stored in this computer is the complete catalogue of all the ancients' knowledge from their entire history up to their evacuation of the city, putting the data to cover around 175 million years of their history, possibly more, and including their most up-to-date discoveries and technology. And lastly, the Destiny database. This is by far the oldest database known and contains the least amount of knowledge regarding the ancients, as the ship was launched 50 million years ago into the vast unknowns of the universe. However, the knowledge inside could be the most important information regarding the universe. The data inside would cover around 100 million years of their history, plus all of the information Destiny obtained on her journey throughout the universe, making Destiny's knowledge the most unique out of all three. Each database has vast Each database has vast knowledge of various subjects to their history, technology, planet data, species data, information on ascension, and so much more. And so with the brief history covered of each database's timeline, let's go into detail of each one, starting off with the repositories of knowledge left behind in the Milky Way galaxy. The repositories of knowledge, also referred to as archives of knowledge, are devices left scattered around the Milky Way galaxy by the ancients that contain their entire knowledge up to their point in history from when they were placed. This knowledge is considered the most advanced knowledge ever recorded, surpassing all other races' knowledge except maybe the Aurais, as they were ascended beings themselves. But why did the ancients leave these vast troves of knowledge in the first place? Well, I can think of 3 reasons. The first one is to pass on their knowledge to their legacy or descendants when they are ready, so that their knowledge and history can live on. My reason 2 is to back up their data to be used by them later if they ever lost their knowledge and needed a backup. And 3, hubris. They left their knowledge as a sense of pride and arrogance to other races, but But this one seems less likely to me, but possible, as the ancients did have a superiority complex and were extremely arrogant and overconfident, but not in an evil way. But these are my thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments if you have any other ideas on why they left their knowledge like this. So, how does one access this information? Well, that's the thing. The devices are unique in terms of access. In the two on-screen uses of the device we see, they are hidden in a wall or structure and only materialize when certain requirements are met. The first one was on P3R272, where the Stargate was located in a single room with no way out except through the Stargate. The device was hidden in the wall, and the key for revealing the device was a sensor-like scan that, upon O'Neill walking through a ring of light of ancient writing, did only then the device appear. The question is, did it react to his human physiology or the ancient gene in O'Neill, acting as a genetic key of some kind? However, the other one on P3X439 was housed in a large statue-structured temple and was revealed by a series of button pushes on a wall by Daniel, possibly a key code of some kind, but this was only accessible by someone with the knowledge of the ancients' writing. Each device materialized head height on the wall in a closed state like this image. The device will remain like this until approached by someone that the device detects is allowed the information, as Tilk is a Jafar, and even though he looked inside the device, it did not activate, but when O'Neill looked into the device, it opened up and grabbed his head. Again, leaving the speculation for access to be either human or have the ancient gene. This device, upon grabbing the recipient's head, uses a neural interface or downloads the entire database of knowledge into the mind of the recipient, in this case O'Neill. The device, upon the completion of the download, retracts back into its closed state on the wall and seems to power down, having dispensed all the knowledge, leaving each device as a one-use download. The recipient of the data seemingly loses consciousness briefly due to the stress of the event, and after a day or two, the knowledge slowly unfolds into the brain. Now, this method of data download is very dangerous for anyone that is not an ancient or is not sufficiently evolved enough mentally to hold the data, as the sheer size of the database is too much for lesser evolved minds to handle, eventually leading the knowledge to shut down the brain, killing the recipient. However, the knowledge does unfold at a reasonably slow pace, allowing for the recipient to use the knowledge, or in O'Neill's case, do strange things that he can't control. So what knowledge do we know that these devices contained? Well, I will list off both times O'Neill used the device, so let's begin. The data contains the language of the ancients, as O'Neill is shown unwillingly speaking it and is able to read ancient writing. It also contains all of the Stargate addresses in the Milky Way galaxy, including the Asgard homeworld of Athala in the galaxy of Ida, as O'Neill unwittingly updated the SGC computer with binary code, updating the computer with all the Stargate addresses in the galaxy. The data also contains vast detailed information on ancient technology, like detailed blueprints of the Stargate's DHD, advanced math, and the ability to construct advanced devices with Earth and Gould technology, like a power source for the Stargate. This data also gives O'Neill the ability to upgrade certain technologies like a Teltax hyperdrive, making it faster, and the ring transporter system, converting it into a plasma beam. The data also is shown to enhance the evolution of the brain, giving O'Neill the advanced healing abilities of the ancients too, showing the data to be more than just information. Other things we know for sure the data has is knowledge of locations like the Antarctica ancient outpost and other ancient colonies like Teonas, and the know-how of how to use certain ancient technologies like the drone weapons and control chairs. And even though the data is vast and will eventually kill O'Neill, consciously or subconsciously, O'Neill was able to use the data to save his life on both occasions, with the first time seeking out the Asgard to remove the data by creating a power source for the Stargate to dial another galaxy, and program the SGC computer to dial at the right time. And the other was to go into stasis to allow him to survive, showing that the data has the ability to know what the recipient wants, even if the recipient doesn't know how to use the data on their own. Another example of this is with the second time O'Neill uses the device. He guided the team to Teonas for the ZPM and then to the ancient outpost in Antarctica to the drone weapons, showing that even though O'Neill is not in control of his actions, the data knows what he wants and will focus the information on the specific task he wants to do. Another example was when O'Neill used Asgard technology to create an anti-replicator weapon, due to the need for it, using the Ancients' knowledge in conjunction with the Asgard computer. Now, I think that covers all we know of the data on screen, and the list of information we know is very small as the data was mostly on task with what was needed in the moment. But given Thor's statement, you cannot even begin to comprehend the extent of what was unfolded in O'Neill's mind. Our scientists long ago extracted parts of the ancient library of knowledge and learned much from it, but we have been studying it for as long as I can remember and we have barely scratched the surface. This implies the Asgard found a separate device from the ones SG-1 discovered and somehow removed the device and studied it, possibly downloading the data and storing it into their Asgard computers. And with Thor saying they have studied it for as long as he can remember, states they have been studying it for over 1500 years, and to only have scratched the surface implies that there is vast quantities of data, so advanced that even the Asgard are not yet able to understand all of it. So what data is there? Well, let's venture a guess, purely my speculation here. I reckon the archive contains their entire history from leaving the Ori galaxy to leaving the Milky Way galaxy. That's around 200 million years of ancient knowledge or history. It also contains vast knowledge of technology in detail with blueprints and knowledge of how to build it. Vast scientific data of complex math equations, discovery of physics, biology and chemistry, planet data, as well as a catalogue of every life form from plants, animals to sentient species, and of course knowledge of the universe from planets, stars to black holes, etc. And I reckon the data contains all of their social knowledge too. The data stored would very much be like our own collective history and scientific data. Take the internet for example, nearly all of recorded human knowledge is on there from every corner of our history, science, discoveries and society. So imagine that data being 200 million years old with 200 million years more advanced science than our own. It's going to be almost endless and so advanced that it's incomprehensible to any lesser advanced races. So with that explained, let's quickly go over the other two known databases of the ancients, starting off with Atlantis. So for Atlantis' database, a few major things are different compared to the repositories of knowledge. The first major one is access. It can be accessed via a normal computer interface at any control console in the city of Atlantis, and for easier access and learning, the data can be accessed by a hologram room that can visually show you the information you desire, making the database so much easier to access with no risk of death. But what knowledge does the Atlantis database contain? Well, it contains all of the ancient knowledge from up to when they left Atlantis, 10,000 years ago, possibly being the most up-to-date knowledge of the ancients. It contains the ancients' entire historical archive, including records of the Lantian-Wraith War, time in the Milky Way galaxy, and further back still. It contains every single Stargate address in both the Milky Way and the Pegasus galaxies, including the 9th Chevron Stargate address for Destiny, a complete ancient star map of both galaxies with detailed information on planets, populations, stellar phenomena, plants and animals, and have records of any astronomical events that have occurred in the history. The database also contains notes on space travel, cultural information on native populations within the Pegasus galaxy, information on the Wraith and the Eratus bug, personal logs and records of the Lantian population of Atlantis, including visual records of individuals and a list of who evacuated the city. The database contains enormous amounts of social information and records for the population, and all this data I have listed so far can be, for the most part, understood and translated to be read by anyone and be studied with relative ease, as this information is mostly records of history and logs. The real challenging information is next, which requires higher understanding of math and science to fully understand this information, which contains countless logs of scientific research in various subjects like ZPMs, shields and drone technology, schematics on Atlantis and Atlantean ships, construction blueprints with construction methodology, weapon schematics, ships and various other technologies, research on physics, biology and xenobiology, chemistry and any other science known to exist or have yet to be discovered by the Tauri. And lastly, research on Ascension. All of this information is easily accessible by the Atlantis computer on any console, but understanding it is a completely separate thing. It's like giving a caveman a mobile phone. You could try to explain how it works, but the caveman will have no idea on how it was made or the science inside, if he even knew what the science was, which is probably no. Even the Asgard, an extremely advanced intellectual race, still don't understand most of the ancient science, and they are really smart aliens. The Atlantis database contains the most advanced and most recent knowledge of the ancients ever recorded in the Stargate universe. So with Atlantis' database covered, let's move on to the Destinies. So moving on to the last known database of the ancients, the Destiny Computer Database. This database is probably the oldest known database of the ancients and can be accessed by two means. The first is using the ship's control consoles to access the ship's information. However, without the master key code, only basic information is accessible from any of the consoles, but upon using the master key code on the bridge of the Destiny, the entirety of the database is accessible to the user. The database can also be accessed by a neural interface chair, but this method comes with a great risk to the user, as it can kill or severely disable the user, similar to the repositories in the Milky Way galaxy, but with a more immediate effect. The knowledge of Destiny's database is vast and it contains so much information just like the other databases, but it also contains one of the ancients' greatest discoveries, which is the sole reason for Destiny's construction. So what does the database hold? Well, the database contains the history of the ancients up to the launch of the Destiny around 50 million years ago. The entire history of Destiny's journey thus far, with detailed records of the many galaxies and the planets it's visited, plus all the information the seed ships have gathered that are ahead of Destiny. Countless data on the Pacific planets and star systems visited by Destiny and the seed ships, allowing for Destiny to navigate its course and know what resources are on said planets. The database also contains information on the Destiny itself, from logs to specifications on diagnostics, along with information on the ship's systems, power usage and the battle damage, or just age damage. It also contains information on the discovery of the structure within the CMBR and the fragments of that structure collected by Destiny thus far, and with all of the ancients' notes on that subject. The database also contains knowledge on science, biology and chemistry, including medical data. The vastness of Destiny's knowledge is unknown, as it still collects data continually from its sensors and scans, and from subspace transmissions from the seed ships ahead of it. Destiny is designed to gather data on the universe and has been doing this job for 50 million years and will continue to do so till the ship runs out of power or is destroyed, making Destiny the last ancient computer database to be constantly updated with new data, but more from the universe than from the ancients themselves. So now we know the three known locations of the ancients' knowledge within the universe and what we know is contained within, I just want to express my thoughts on it, starting with the number one question I see online about the ancients' knowledge, mainly Atlantis' database. The question I see a lot is, if the Tauri have access to technology data from the ancients like ZPM data, why can't we make our own? Well, it comes down to the understanding. Well, yes, the Tauri know how to use a ZPM and have the basic understanding of how the ZPM works, but creating one is a whole other problem. It's like, I know how to drive a car, I understand the basic operations of the car's engine and how it runs, but ask me to build one, I would have no clue. Same principle as the knowledge of the ancients. The Tauri have access to the knowledge and the basic understanding of the pre-existing technology, but to create from scratch the ancients' technology, is virtually impossible due to the current level of the understanding of the science behind it. Now, there is the odd exception to this, with understanding, like with Rodney McKay and Samantha Carter having greater understanding of ancient technology and the science than the majority of the Tauri, but they still lack the full understanding to create the ancients' technology from scratch. The best they can do is use the knowledge they understand to improve upon their own technology, or use the pre-existing ancient technology to its fullest. But there are limits. But these are my thoughts from observations on why the Tauri can't just create a ZPM or manufacture drones. So what are your thoughts on this? Because it is a good question. Well, there we go, my fellow nerds. This is my breakdown regarding the ancients' knowledge. There is far more here to talk about regarding the knowledge we know within the show and what we don't know, but I'll leave that for another video because we could be here forever. And if you like this video, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe. It really does help me out. The channel is blowing up. We have over 2,000 subscribers now, and I can't thank you all enough for your support, and it just makes me so much happy to have all you Stargate fans join me on this lovely adventure. So I've been Dr. McKay. Thank you all for watching and for all your support, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers and goodbye, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.